We're getting near the end.
Yes,
Do I get a
follow
minute
it.
on
You
Terrance
can follow
Hayes?
it.
Oh, Terrance Hayes is beautiful.
All right.
Let's go there.
Okay, I'm gonna go. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do this very quickly and let you figure it all out and tell me
It's,
everything.
it's gorgeous.
You read Terrance Hayes, African American poet, but also a very gifted basketball player, and he was an academic All-American. Not at a Division I school, but still a really good basketball player who was also very intelligent and gifted in school. And so you can see that in him. Now, let's get to the sonnet. I think the sonnet form, the details of it don't really matter that much, except that it's a sonnet in his mind. And the parenthetical, I lock you in an American sonnet that is part prison. Now, who's he locking? Why is it a prison? I think he's saying to white America, here's a little bit of an idea of what it's like to be black.
Mm-hmm.
And go from there. And I love the notion of the prison being ugly, dark, diminishing, but at the same time, like a theater or like a gym or something, a place to hone your craft. Simultaneously.
Did you want to read the poem?
I will read it. I lock you in an American sonnet that is part prison, part panic closet, a little room in a house set aflame. I lock you in a form that is part music box, part meat grinder, to separate the song of the bird from the bone. I lock your persona in a dream-inducing sleeper hold while your better selves watch from the bleachers. I make you both Jim and Crow here. As a crow, you undergo a beautiful catharsis, trapped one night in the shadows of the gym. As a Jim, the feel of crow shit dropping on your floors is not unlike the stars falling from the pep rally posters on your walls. I make you a box of darkness with a bird at its heart. Voltas of acoustics, instinct, and metaphor. It is not enough to love you. It is not enough to want you destroyed.
I see this as following on, at one level, it's following on our discussion of Berrigan, because it is about the poem that is part prison, and then it is deeper about the nature of America and the music.
Mm-hmm.
It's part music box, part meat grinder. And the bird from the bone, it's like why the caged birds sing. There's a reference to Maya Angelou. And of course the Jim Crow.
Isn't that?
You know,
marvelous?
this is just a extraordinarily beautiful
loved
and
it.
very strong.
I loved it.
Can you
poem.
say
And I think it's accessible
Which
the way
reference?
we.
Which
Berrigan.
mention Angelou?
Maya Angelou.
Yeah.
What is the exact title? Why the caged birds sing? Or,
Why the caged
yeah.
birds sing.
And that's
Yeah.
in the Song
That's the
of the
title.
Bird?
That's the title of her.
No, I put the reference within this sonnet.
Oh, Song of the Bird. Separate the song of the bird from the bone.
Yeah.
It's a meat grinder, part music box, part meat grinder.
Well, there's
Why the
ambivalence here.
caged bird sings.
There's ambivalence, and there's these balances
That's right.
Yes,
just
absolutely.
throughout here.
Mhm.
Part panic closet, part prison,
I loved the.
part music box,
And
part
to
meat
use
grinder.
the sonnet form, he's not doing what, say, blocking on his name. He changed his name, poet, 60s, 50s, 60s, New York.
Baraka?
Yeah,
Baraka?
yeah, he's not doing the kind of jazz reference that Baraka would be doing.
Mhm.
So he's taking this form that's white, comes from,
Exactly.
you know, he's
It's
taking
from
the white form.
The
This is
elite, you know.
and
You
this
had
is,
you learned
you know,
about it in college.
and that's part of the tension. That's also part of the addressing
Yeah.
of contemporary poetry from 20th century
That's
forward
right.
is this sonnet. I mean, Olson wanted
Well,
to break that.
You almost
Um,
expect
yeah.
someone who's trying to wake you up about your culture and break all the boundaries would take sonnet and throw it out the window and write blah blah
No,
blah blah
he's
blah.
taking
And he says, "I'm going to put you in a sonnet."
he's
So you can
absolutely, and it's going to be
feel
beautiful. So
You
I
can
lock
feel
you.
the boundaries.
You know, I'm locking you in.
That's right.
I took the reference to a dream-inducing sleeper hold to what happened in New York. I forget the victim's name. But
Yeah, who was killed.
it was actually a chokehold.
Yeah, the cops.
When was this written versus when that was?
Well, I think it was
It was
fairly.
about a year ago, right?
Well, that was a few years ago now.
I think this is before that, but I loved the reference to the
I Have a Dream is certainly.
the stars dropping to your floors is not unlike the stars falling from the pepper alley posters on the walls. He's taking the gym,
not
like
stars,
he knows
shit.
about the
Shit
gym
dropping.
very well,
Crochet.
and using it for Jim Crow, blah, 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 basketball, the sonnet, the containment. I love that.
Well, it also
And
is.
also, it's crochet, as in Jim Crochet.
That's right.
You know, that's dropping to your
That's
floor.
right.
Well, and the stars falling from pep rally posters. These aren't like natural, beautiful stars.
No,
No,
it's
This is
a
just
ersatz
pep rally
crap
posters.
in
Yeah.
everybody's high school gym.
Is he could possibly talking about basketball stars that are less than honorable and that fall from the posters that extol them?
Sure.
Maybe. I tend to think
No
this
doubt.
is addressing a larger
so.
society, though.
Well,
Um,
why? This is the book that has come out with all of these.
let me see.
All
With
of these
what?
poems. This is the book that
Okay.
the poem came in. All of the poems are titled American Sonnet for My Past and Future
Yeah,
Assassin.
right.
And
Everyone, right?
every single one.
Lovely.
And what to make of that, and what
Well,
to
it's a
make
lot
of that
easier to
in
give
relation-
titles
Brilliant.
that way, if you give the same.
Well, it's a lot easier if you just use the same title over and over again. Yeah, that's.
But you're sort of making your point.
But why does this title work for this poem? So my past and my future assassin.
Being black in America.
Yeah,
You know, walking black.
yeah.
I'm
It happened to me in
I'm
the
getting
past.
into my car black.
It's a very bleak outlook,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's
Yeah.
happened to me in the past, and it's gonna happen to me in the future.
It's bleak. It's pretty damn real.
Well, I think he took the effort to write the poem. Indicates that he has a bit of optimism.
Sure.
So
Well-
if you wake up, America, maybe.
Well, your better selves. There
that's
is
right.
a better self.
I think
he's
there's an
addressing.
element of that in there.
But
But I mean, the better selves are just people who watch from the bleachers. They're
That's-
not actively involved to
Well-
end the dream-inducing sleeper hold. The best they can do is watch from the bleachers.
That's true. That's pretty
yeah,
grim.
no, that's yes.
And if you're watching a football game on a Sunday with a beer, a sleeper hold is pretty close to what you're like when you're.
Sort of a stupor.
That's right. It's just a way of escape.
It's
Yeah,
just an escape.
And the interesting thing is, like,
I mean, I love sport, but the way it's used.
it's
I
also
agree with you,
the persona of address. You know, I lock you. So the you, the pep rally posters on your walls, not on my walls, my gym, your walls.
No, because
Your gym, you're this, you're that.
That's not mine, he's saying.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's saying it's not enough to love you,
Right.
and it's not enough to want you destroyed. He's trapped in both.
That's right. The paradox I
Yeah,
was talking about
exactly,
earlier.
yeah.
Well, what does it mean?
Exactly.
I mean, what does? And I'm just teasing this out. What does it mean in this context to say it's not enough to love you? Does that mean work within the white-dominated culture to make everyone happy?
No, it's not enough just
No,
to
no,
love and
no.
admire, individuals, or to love the culture, or to love the history of poetry that comes through
Well,
the.
I take it, yeah, the personal.
Yeah.
I've known many black people that I've worked with professionally and not professionally, who I'm genuinely attached to. and they're attached to me.
Yeah, exactly.
But they'll never,
it's not
it'll
enough.
never be quite the same
No,
because of the history of their
absolutely.
race.
And most of those folks, well, a lot, have to code shift
Right.
all the time. You have to code shift.
And
You know what I mean by code shift?
following
right?
along
No.
that, I
You
don't,
don't know what I mean by code shift?
No.
Okay, it's a
What
linguistic
now? Say it
term,
again.
code shift.
Code shift.
Yeah,
Oh,
linguistic code shifting.
I had no idea.
Hey, honey, I'm gonna fuck you up, is one line.
yeah.
Or, I care for you and, but right now I'm angry. I mean, there's very different ways of being, and
So
also body
saying one
movements.
thing, meaning another.
Is that
I
Yeah.
think, does it
Now
improve?
think of a rapper,
Sure.
a rap language, but there's more than that. There's coloration and depth and history and food. It's an entire surround sound that
Right.
varies within itself. It's not just one thing.
And the same thing,
But
it-
it's code shifting. If you're going to move on up and be professional in the world, you can't be talking like a rapper,
Right.
That will hurt you. And that hurts many young people who
Right.
aren't able to learn to code shift or don't have the opportunity. And that is in and of itself walking black down the street.
That's a great,
And sometimes
Yeah,
somebody
I
even
think-
code shifting gets hurt.
I've learned a lot. I've learned something from my relationships with blacks that about peeling away these exterior barriers to getting closer and understanding each other. Now, it's probably true in all human relationships. How many people do you really know? Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
But
there are strong
But there
lines in this
are
society.
aspects of interacting with African Americans, and I do that especially through the prison work that I do, that give you new and different realities of it. So then you're aware of these
Mhm.
how inaccessible.
And
they are.
there's code shifting that isn't only black-white. I mean, if I'm sitting in Texas and I'm talking to somebody, there's George
Let-
Bush, bless his heart.
Of course.
There's a code shift.
Let me give you one example. One
I
One
hope he
thing
bless his
really
heart, I
dawned
mean
on
something
me
else.
in doing
Yeah.
this prison work was being allowed to be privy to a group of middle class blacks discussing lower class blacks.
Yeah, well,
And
yeah.
the amount of antipathy and animosity and disgust was profound.
And regional.
But don't you whitey start piping up about all of this.
Yeah.
We'll do it ourselves. And very interesting.
And that's actually something that has developed more strongly since the civil rights movement, where some people have been able to move up and others haven't.
Right.
Whereas before there was more of a communal.
I have a
movement.
personal example I'd like to give you, and that is, when I was in the Navy, I worked on a ship, and one of the main doctors on the ship was black. And he went through the best black medical school, and he was very good doctor, really good man. And he and I, because we were on the same ship and we did the same thing, we became quite good friends. I invited him to dinner at my house one time, and I lived in a nice neighborhood in San Diego, out on the peninsula. And he came and he brought his children, and I asked him, where's your house? Where do you live? And he said, I have to live over there because I can't live where I want to live.
Yeah.
I'm black.
It is the same. Yeah.
And the two of us could never be as good of friends as if we were both black or both
That's
white.
It's
We
perfect.
couldn't, no matter what
I had
we
black
did.
friends in Houston, and if they would come visit me where I was living, but not when I had an apartment, although that was dangerous too, depending on where it was. But at one time, they came to visit me at the house I was renting with somebody, and the next thing is I had cops at the door. It just didn't work, and it was really painful to me. I hated it.
Well, my neighbors the next
And I
day
compromised because you could be evicted.
came over and said, we saw
Yeah.
There
black
you
children
go.
playing in
Evidence.
your yard. We saw black children playing in your yard.
Yeah, is that,
What's
did you know
going
that?
on?
Yeah,
What's
did you know
going
that?
on?
Hey, one last observation about
Sure.
this poem that until we went through it today, I had not realized how well he did stitching together the idea or metaphor of this gym. You know, the bleachers, the gym.
Oh, I love the gym. I love the gym.
And then the posters, the pep rally posters.
And that's from having played high school and college basketball.
Where did he play?
It was a small school in South Carolina, not
Oh.
Division One.
South Carolina, where?
Coker College, Hartsville, South Carolina.
Was he from South Carolina? Or
Yes.
Coker.
And it was named for Major James Lyde Coker, Civil War, South.
Probably a white general.
Yeah, and it was a female school until 1969. So it was, there were a few women's schools who went co-ed, and it would be an example of that.
Was it all black?
By then, I don't think it could have
I don't think so, but I don't know.
been. It had to
Well,
be integrated.
yeah, but integration could mean one person. You know.
Well, sure.
That's a good
Down there,
question,
you know.
but he was an
Yeah.
academic All-American at Coker College.
Yeah. That would be worth looking at, just because, I have a friend in D.C. who was actually a friend of my husband's when he was at Yale Law. But she was lovely. She grew up near Philadelphia, Mississippi, and she was working class. The same folks that would have killed Emmett Till, were her family. And when she was 12, the Emmett Till event happened.
How
And
many?
she was where they were until she saw his picture.
How many schools would have been created in Hartsville, South Carolina in 1908 that were for all
No.
black women?
Well, for all
there was,
integrated, definitely not.
No, it could have been all white, but you were
Right.
asking whether it was all black. See, it was all female from 1908 to
And you can bet it was
1969.
white.
And you can bet it was
I think
white.
that's probably the best bet, although I'd still like to tack it down because there were
I
some
think
weird
I'd
anomalies.
love to
You
see
know.
that.
Yeah,
I
I'd
think
like
the
to
share the
likelihood.
history of it.
This friend of mine ended up going to Mississippi Women's and was the first to graduate from college in her family, and she was working in a Memphis newspaper her first year. And Yale had formed a partnership with Ole Miss, but the deal was they would exchange students and faculty, but only if they were integrated. So here's what Ole Miss did. It took the Yale faculty that came down, had half the students. The other half went right through, and they had called around to see if they could find a woman. And so they called Mississippi Women, and they said, well, yes, we do have a graduate who's really stellar. And she had to think, because she, for the first time in her life, was earning money. But she ended up going, and she was really active with African Americans there. But she had a big fellow that was on the football team that walked her every night, walked her from the library home just to make sure she got home safe in that environment. And of course from there she was picked up by Yale and ended up in graduate work at Yale in law, and she felt, my husband saw her as this elegant and really intelligent Southern belle, and she saw herself as, oh my God, what am I doing here? Can I possibly compete? But she is a labor and other lawyer in DC at the moment. But it's just an interesting trajectory to look, from a women's college in Mississippi.
Well, this
But
was
this
a
was
women's
white,
college
so
in
this was
South
white.
Carolina.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
It switched in '69.
I know we're about to wrap up, but I was
I
struck.
want to own that book.
I make you a box of darkness with a bird in its heart, voltas of acoustics, instinct, and metaphor. And he's saying, I think this is the poet himself saying, I make you a box of
Oh,
darkness.
yeah.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
And
definitely.
it's just very striking. what he's pulled off of this poem.
Yeah,
The,
it's
the,
brilliant.
the images of the birds and the
And the
singing
sonnet form
and,
is,
and the volta,
let's
you
cram
know,
it in there.
he's
Yeah.
playing on the sense of the volta in poetry itself, instinct and metaphor,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you know.
I've gone
And
through
it's
this.
not enough to want you destroyed, because that's the other comment, that sheer destruction ain't gonna do it either,
No,
you know.
no.
But it's a terrible tension. It's just-
Yeah, it's a,
So $18, well worth it.